When enterprises push harder into analytics and artificial intelligence, AI, they often discover a tension that can feel like a tug of war. Teams want faster access to more data for better insights, while governance leaders want tighter control to protect trust, compliance, and operational stability. For brand new learners, it can sound like data governance and analytics are natural enemies, as if governance always says no and analytics always pushes for shortcuts. In reality, strong governance is what makes analytics and AI reliable and sustainable, because models and insights are only as good as the data they rely on, and unmanaged data use creates exposures that can hurt the enterprise badly. Aligning data governance to analytics and AI needs without losing control means designing a system where data can be used productively for insight and innovation while still being handled responsibly, consistently, and transparently. By the end of this lesson, you should understand why alignment matters, what losing control looks like, and how an enterprise can enable analytics and AI while protecting the boundaries that keep data trustworthy and legally safe. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyber.author.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Data governance is the set of roles, policies, standards, and processes that define how data is owned, classified, accessed, used, shared, stored, and retained across the enterprise. Analytics and AI needs often include access to larger datasets, access to more diverse data sources, and the ability to combine data in ways that reveal patterns. The alignment challenge exists because analytics often benefits from flexibility and scale, while governance requires discipline and boundaries. A beginner mistake is to treat governance as a brake and analytics as the engine, but a better view is that governance is the steering system that keeps the engine from driving off the road. If data is mishandled, the enterprise can face legal penalties, loss of customer trust, and operational disruption, and those outcomes can shut down analytics initiatives entirely. Governance also protects analytic value by improving data quality, because poor data quality produces misleading insights and unreliable models. When governance and analytics are aligned, the enterprise gets both speed and reliability, because the processes that enable access are designed to be safe and repeatable rather than ad hoc and risky. Losing control typically looks like uncontrolled copies of data, unclear ownership, and unclear boundaries about who can use what data for what purpose. For example, teams might extract sensitive customer data into spreadsheets, personal cloud accounts, or unmanaged databases to train models or run analyses quickly. Data might be combined across domains without clear permission, creating privacy and consent issues. Data might be retained indefinitely because nobody knows what can be deleted, creating long-term exposure if an incident occurs. Another form of losing control is inconsistent definitions, where teams use different meanings for the same fields, producing analytics that cannot be compared and decisions that conflict. Control is not only about preventing data leakage, it is also about maintaining integrity and consistency so analytics results are trustworthy. When control is lost, the enterprise often pays the price in rework, audits, and crisis-driven restrictions that slow everyone down. A well-aligned governance system prevents this cycle by making safe data use the normal path. To align governance with analytics and AI, the enterprise must start with data classification and data purpose, because not all data should be treated the same way. Classification means identifying which data is sensitive, which data is regulated, which data is internal only, and which data can be shared more broadly. Purpose means defining what the data is allowed to be used for, such as operational processing, reporting, research, or model training. The reason purpose matters is that data use can be appropriate in one context and inappropriate in another, even if the same dataset is involved. If an enterprise has customer data collected for a specific service purpose, using it for an unrelated analytics purpose may violate expectations or legal requirements, depending on the situation. Aligning governance means creating clear rules for permissible use and ensuring those rules are communicated in a way that analytics teams can apply without constant negotiation. When classification and purpose are clear, access decisions can be faster because they are based on known categories and permissions rather than on ad hoc debates. This clarity also supports accountability because owners can approve use based on defined boundaries. Ownership is another critical factor because analytics initiatives often span multiple data domains, and without clear ownership, access and quality responsibilities become unclear. Data owners are accountable for how data is used and for ensuring that use aligns with enterprise policies and obligations. Data stewards often manage the practical aspects, such as definitions, quality rules, and metadata that helps others understand the data. For analytics and AI, ownership must be paired with a process that allows timely decisions, because slow approvals drive shadow behavior. A mature approach defines who can approve what type of access, what evidence is needed, and what review frequency is required, especially for sensitive data. It also defines who is accountable for monitoring usage, because data access is not a one-time event. It is an ongoing exposure that must be managed. When ownership is clear and processes are efficient, analytics teams can move quickly while staying within governance boundaries, which is the essence of alignment without losing control. A major governance tool for supporting analytics and AI is strong metadata and data cataloging, because people cannot use data responsibly if they do not understand what it is. Metadata includes definitions, lineage information about where data came from, quality indicators, classification labels, and usage restrictions. Without metadata, analytics teams often rely on assumptions, and assumptions lead to wrong conclusions and risky handling. For example, a field might look like a simple identifier, but might actually be regulated or sensitive, requiring stricter handling. Another field might have different meanings across systems, creating misleading comparisons. A data catalog helps teams discover data and understand its constraints, which improves productivity while reducing risk. When metadata is integrated into access decisions, it also speeds approvals because reviewers can see what data is requested and what rules apply. This reduces the tendency for teams to copy data into unofficial spaces just to figure out what it contains. In this way, good metadata is both a governance control and an analytics enabler. Data quality governance is also essential for analytics and AI because models and insights depend on consistency, completeness, accuracy, and timeliness. A common beginner misunderstanding is to view governance as mainly about security and privacy, but data quality is equally important because poor quality can cause harm through wrong decisions. If an AI model is trained on inconsistent or biased data, it can produce unreliable results that affect customers and operations. Governance supports quality by defining quality standards, monitoring quality indicators, and assigning responsibility for correcting issues. Quality governance must be aligned to analytics needs because analytics often surfaces quality problems earlier when teams combine datasets and notice inconsistencies. Instead of viewing that as friction, a mature enterprise treats it as feedback that improves the data ecosystem. When quality improvement is part of the governance program, analytics becomes more reliable and less likely to produce contradictory outputs. This also increases trust in analytics, which matters because decision makers will not use insights they do not trust. Access control and least privilege principles must be adapted to analytics workflows in a way that remains safe but does not create unnecessary roadblocks. Analytics often requires broad datasets, but broad access does not mean unlimited access to raw sensitive data. A common alignment strategy is to provide tiered access, where many users can access aggregated or de-identified data, while only a limited set of approved roles can access sensitive detail when needed. Another alignment strategy is to provide controlled environments for analysis and model training, where data can be used but not easily exported into uncontrolled locations. The goal is not to create a fortress that blocks analytics, but to create safe zones where analytics can operate without increasing enterprise exposure unnecessarily. When safe environments are easy to use, teams are less likely to create shadow copies of data. This is where service improvement matters because governance succeeds when the approved path is also practical. If governance creates safe data services that meet analytics needs, control is maintained without constant enforcement conflict. Privacy and ethics considerations become especially important when analytics and AI are involved, because the enterprise may use data to infer patterns about people, behavior, or risk that can affect real decisions. For beginners, it helps to see that the risk is not only data leakage but also misuse, such as using data in ways that violate consent expectations or that produce unfair outcomes. Governance alignment means establishing clear rules for permissible analytics use, including how sensitive attributes are handled, how model outputs are validated, and how decisions using model outputs are monitored for unintended harm. This is not about turning every analytic effort into a legal debate. It is about ensuring the enterprise can explain what it is doing, why it is doing it, and how it is protecting individuals and trust. When governance includes these considerations early, the enterprise avoids crisis-driven shutdowns later. It also protects the long-term viability of analytics programs because regulators and customers increasingly expect responsible data practices. Aligning governance to AI needs, therefore, includes protecting trust as a strategic asset. Retention and lifecycle management are another area where losing control is common because analytics teams often want to keep data for future use, and future use can be hard to predict. Without governance, data can be retained indefinitely, increasing the blast radius if a breach occurs and increasing compliance exposure if the enterprise cannot justify retention. Aligning governance means defining retention rules that reflect legal obligations and business needs, and applying them consistently across analytic datasets and training data. It also means tracking lineage so the enterprise can understand where training data came from and whether it can be used for a given purpose. When lifecycle is managed, the enterprise can confidently retire outdated datasets, reduce exposure, and refresh models with updated data. This supports analytics quality as well because models trained on stale data can become less accurate over time. A mature program treats data lifecycle as part of reliability and risk management, not as a back-office detail. The governance program should also include monitoring and reporting of data usage, because control requires visibility. Monitoring does not have to mean spying on individuals. It can mean tracking access patterns, detecting unusual data extraction behavior, and reviewing whether data access remains appropriate over time. Reporting can help leaders see where sensitive data is being used for analytics, how many exceptions exist, and whether controls are effective. This visibility supports risk optimization because leaders can adjust boundaries and investments based on evidence, such as improving safe analytics environments if teams are repeatedly creating shadow copies. Monitoring also supports accountability because data owners can see how their data is being used and can confirm it aligns with defined purposes. When monitoring is consistent, the enterprise reduces the chance of surprise, such as discovering during an audit that sensitive data was copied into uncontrolled systems. Visibility turns governance from trust-based hope into evidence-based control. A practical example can show how alignment works without turning into a technical blueprint. Imagine a product team wants to use customer interaction data to improve recommendations and to build an AI model that predicts churn. Without aligned governance, the team might export raw customer data into an unmanaged workspace to experiment quickly, creating exposure around privacy, access control, and retention. With aligned governance, the enterprise provides a governed analytics environment where the team can access approved datasets with clear purpose restrictions, with de-identified views available for most experimentation, and with controlled access to sensitive detail only when justified. Data owners approve the purpose and access using clear criteria, and metadata helps the team understand definitions and constraints so analysis is accurate. Quality monitoring highlights missing fields and inconsistent values, and the team's feedback drives improvements upstream, increasing data reliability for everyone. Retention rules ensure training data is managed responsibly, and monitoring provides visibility into access trends without disrupting productivity. The outcome is faster, safer analytics and a model that decision-makers trust because governance ensured both integrity and responsibility. As we conclude, aligning data governance to analytics and AI needs without losing control means building a system where data can be used for insight and innovation while still being managed as a critical enterprise asset. This alignment relies on clear classification and purpose rules, clear ownership and decision rights, strong metadata and cataloging, and data quality governance that supports trustworthy outcomes. It also depends on practical access models that enable analytics without uncontrolled raw data sprawl, and on privacy, ethics, and lifecycle controls that protect trust and compliance. Continuous monitoring and reporting provide visibility so drift and shadow behavior can be corrected with service improvements rather than with punishment. When governance is aligned, analytics and AI become sustainable capabilities that improve enterprise outcomes without creating hidden exposures that later force shutdowns. If you remember one guiding idea, let it be that the fastest analytics path is the one that is safe and repeatable, because speed without control creates future crises, while aligned governance creates durable insight and reliable AI value.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.